Hello and welcome to the Career Corner, where we answer your career cues. I'm your host, Lukas Kauffman, and today, folks, we are joined by Candace Burton to talk about volunteering for nonprofit organizations. It's going to be a great episode. Candace, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me.
And it is so good to have you here. So we're going to jump right into this. Starting off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how and why you got into volunteering for nonprofits?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally from New York City, and went to Ithaca College for undergrad. But I've always been volunteering in various nonprofits. I've done a lot of like charity walks. Giving back is something I've just always really loved to do. So after Ithaca College, I did 2 years of AmeriCorps Vista service. So it's basically trying to help organizations build their capacity. And it was really cool. So I did that at two sport nonprofits. And then I went to grad school at UMass and after worked at Good Sports, which is another sport nonprofit, and they give sports equipment to different organizations like schools and community sports programs all across the country. So that was just really amazing to do as well. And now I work at the Boston Foundation, so it's a little more broad, but still in um, the space of giving back. And now it's just general operating support grants to different nonprofits in the greater Boston area.
Amazing. And could you share with us what a typical day looks like while you're volunteering?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's definitely varies, which makes sense. There's always a lot going on, but I really it's really about talking to a lot of different nonprofit leaders. So that does take up a lot of my day, and then really just thinking about how to continue to improve the program that I'm running, which is called Safety Net Grants, and really about providing essential needs support to different different community members. And yeah, it's a lot about trying to get feedback on what we're doing well and continuously improving that program. We're doing a lot more events too now, which is really fun as well. It's nice just to get to meet a lot more people in person as well.
Yeah. And how often are you volunteering? Is it a full-time job?
Yeah, so what I do right now is full time. I also do kind of other things outside my job at the Boston Foundation. So I'm on the steering committee of it's called Emerging Practitioners in Philanthropy, or EPIP for short. And that's really great because they're just young professionals, up and coming professionals in philanthropy that we meet once a month and plan different programming. So sometimes it's networking related, sometimes it's more focused on like professional development as well. And I also recently joined another board, and it's called Thrive Philanthropy, and it's more focused on globally, like trying to support sustainable food systems. So yeah, I mean those kind of vary, but it's usually a couple hours a month that I dedicate to those organizations as well.
Amazing. So when I mean, this might just be a misconception that I have, but when I hear nonprofit and volunteering, I don't often think of a full-time job. So what's it like earning a wage while volunteering in the way that you do?
Yeah, no, I think it's really great just because I'm really passionate about the work I do. And it's always nice to like really look forward to, going to work and meeting people, getting to help people as a day-to-day job. So I really love it. I mean, one of the drawbacks is like obviously the pay isn't as high as it would be in the corporate sector. But for me, I just get so fulfilled just doing what I love, making people's lives better. Definitely a huge benefit for me.
Yeah, and you've mentioned how rewarding it is and how much you love giving back to the community. What do you think the most rewarding aspect of volunteering is?
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly just love like the relationships I get to build with other people. I feel like when you're volunteering, working in the nonprofit space, you get to meet people you wouldn't if you weren't doing that type of work. So, just meeting people from all different walks of life and different backgrounds. And that to me has been really rewarding just because I feel like I get to learn more. So, I mean, for instance, I'm from New York. I now live in Boston, and I've gotten to learn a lot more about Boston through my job just because I'm talking to a whole bunch of different people daily.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, what are some of the challenges that come with volunteering for nonprofits?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I would say that sometimes nonprofits can be understaffed, so it can be a lot. It can sometimes not be as organized, a little more. There, a lot of times there are situations where it's like all hands on deck. We kind of have to get this thing done, and um, volunteers might not always be as consistent, I would say, the nonprofit space just because, you're not getting paid, so it might be easier to, like, not do that commitment, and I think just on the nonprofit end, that can make it hard to make sure, you have consistent people that you can rely on, and, yeah, I would say that's probably kind of, like, the main challenge is just, nonprofits are usually very lean and, having to rely a lot on volunteers.
Yeah. So in what ways do you think volunteering can contribute to your professional development and your career? What skills and other attributes can you benefit and gain from volunteering?
Yeah, I think it's something I hope everyone does at some point in life. And like I said, it can be, you don't have to be in the nonprofit sector full time. It can be something like, going to a soup kitchen once a week or participating in a charity walk. And those are some things I did in high school as well. But I would say that the main thing I think you gain is again just the relationship building piece and just learning about people with different backgrounds than yours, people that might, sometimes have a lower socioeconomic status than yours. I think it's really important to meet people and build relationships with that because it kind of changes and shapes your understanding of the world a little better. I feel like I have like a much better perspective on, what the current issues are in the world, what things that people that, don't have as much or don't have as much money, like what their issues actually are instead of just kind of surmising just because again I have like those real authentic connections with folks.
Yeah, incredible. And what's the best way that people can get involved with programs like these and make this their job if they so choose?
Yeah, well, one like job search site I really recommend is Idealist. They have a lot of jobs that are focused on social change in the nonprofit sector. So if you're looking for full-time work, I really recommend that job site specifically. But there are also just other places, and they also post volunteer opportunities on there as well, I think. But yeah, other sites like Catchafire is one too, and on that site they look for skilled volunteers. So if you're someone that might be really good at marketing and making materials, you could help potentially a nonprofit by volunteering your time. And in turn, like they get to save money. And, that could lead to something in the future, whether it's a job or just more volunteer hours as well. So I would probably recommend those two sites for folks.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of the time when people are looking to get into something, they're often stopped by a misconception they have about whatever they're getting into. So what are some common misconceptions that you think people have about nonprofit volunteering and what would you like for them to understand better about it?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think one of the main things is just that folks might not think that what they do is making a difference just because, maybe it's not a huge difference and it's focused on one nonprofit. But I mean, I would argue that anything you do to give back is definitely making a difference, even if it's something really small. So I see that as the main misconception. Another one is just that I sometimes think that like corporate jobs can sometimes be held in like higher regard than nonprofit jobs, but for me specifically, I think it's great to start off, especially doing nonprofit work, just because you get exposed to a lot, especially since the staff tends to be leaner. You get to actually kind of dabble in different things and have your hands in different pots. It's also really easy to access folks that have been in the space a long time. Like I talk to the CEO of my company, and like if you're in the corporate sector, you might not get that chance. So I think that's also a really huge benefit that people don't often think of.
Yeah, amazing. So you've been doing this for a while. This is your job now. You're bound to have some memorable experiences in your the course of your career. Can you share any memorable moments you've had throughout, from college to now?
Yeah, I can talk about one specifically. So, this was back in February, so a couple months ago now. I got the chance to be at someone's groundbreaking ceremony. So, part of my job, we give out grants to different nonprofit organizations, and one is called Bryce's Journey. They help support the parents and the kids that have autism or other different types of like learning disabilities. And they used to have space donated, but needed to just have a space of their own. And one of the things I was able to do at the Boston Foundation is actually accelerate their grant, so they were able to get into that space when they needed to. And it was really great just to be at that ceremony and meet other folks that were supporting the work, and then also meet the kids as well, because that's kind of what it's all about is supporting the kids and making sure they're able to just navigate the challenges that come with, having autism and other different types of learning disabilities. So I had a great time. And then also, I think what was really cool is that Michelle, who's the executive director and founder, she gave out awards to everybody that's like helped along the way, and I got to like accept an award, which was really cool. And it's like not about accepting awards at all, but it was just really great just to know that like I had an impact and like a meaningful impact, in her life and the work of Bryce's journey as well.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on getting that award.
Thanks.
So it sounds like so much of this work, you've mentioned this before, is so rewarding, and it sounds, just hearing about the work is incredible, the things that you're doing. But you also have mentioned the challenges of that. So how do you balance when things are challenging? What do you do to kind of handle that stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that's, especially in the nonprofit sector, that's getting talked about more is burnout, which I think is a really important challenge to mention, especially if you think about working an organization that you're very passionate about and again might not always have a lot of staff, and sometimes you can overwork yourself and overcommit yourself. So I think it's really important to set boundaries in that way. I mean, now it's like what I do now is definitely not like life or death anymore, just because it's more about, giving out grants instead of doing specific programming per se. But I mean, some of the things I recommend is just setting strict guidelines to when you're gonna be off of work. So, if I usually work 9 to 5 or 9:30 to 5:30. So just making sure like when it's 5:30, like, I'm done, I'm logged off, and then the things I didn't get to, I can get to the next day. And another thing I recommend is, not always having your email on your phone, because sometimes you can get that email and think you have to respond right away. Obviously, emergencies come up, but folks know how to reach you, I think, when you have an emergency. I'm usually able to figure it out. So I think those are the two big things, is just making sure you have separation, and then just like activities that you do outside of work as well. So, for instance, like I took up snowboarding recently, so that's something that's been really fun to to do and learn, and just giving me, another interest and outlet kind of outside of work.
Yeah, awesome. How's the snowboarding going?
It's been going well. It's a really hard sport. I tried a couple different sports, and this is by far the hardest I've learned. It's very unnatural, I feel like, to be locked into a plank of wood. But it's also just been really great learning something as an adult. I feel like we don't often do that. Like kind of after college, we get into our routines and already have our interests. So it's been really great just learning something new and going through the challenges of learning something new too. I've learned a lot about myself. And also it's given me a chance to like want to be outside in the winter, which I think is really great because often was just, getting that like winter seasonal depression. So now I get like excited for the winter.
Yeah, awesome. And are you self-teaching or have you been taking lessons?
So I took a couple lessons, but it was just getting outside every weekend and practicing. I think that is like the main thing that has helped me progress. So I wouldn't recommend having like so my fiance at the time tried to teach me at first and that didn't go so well. So I do recommend having like an outside person to start you off. But it is really all down to practice.
Yeah, I snowboard myself, so that's
Yeah.
awesome to hear. Anyway, back to the topic of our interview today, our little winter sports segment aside. We're coming close to the end of our time here, but before we close out, do you have any messages or encouragement that you would like to give our listeners who are considering getting involved with volunteering?
Yeah, again, I think it's great. It makes sense to just think about like what are the things you're passionate about because there's likely an organization out there doing that. So if you're someone that really likes art or cooking, that's where I would start when if you're looking to, have a volunteer opportunity or potentially have a career in that field. So, I mean, I've talked a little bit about sports, and I was a sport management major, so that's kind of what led me into sport nonprofit. And now it's a little more broad, just because I've really embraced this idea of general operating support for nonprofits and not putting that many restrictions on what they're doing. So that's kind of where I've landed right now, but yeah, I would say, yeah, just try to find an organization that's doing something you're passionate about and go for it. Nonprofits are always looking for folks to help out. So they'll be really excited that, you want to do what you can or either as volunteering or a job.
Yeah. And do you have any other final thoughts, comments, questions, pieces of advice? They can be for volunteering or just for life,
Life.
anything at all.
Um, yeah, maybe my final thought can be never stop learning because again, I feel like it's really important and I think sometimes after we're out of school we stop, but it's important to continue to do things and to try new things. So I'll leave you all with that.
Amazing. Well, Candace Burton, thank you so much for joining us today in the Career Corner.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lucas.
And folks at home, you do not have to wait for our next episode to get career guidance. You can visit Drop-In Hours every weekday from 11 to 2 in Muller Faculty Center 101. I'm Lukas Kauffman, and this has been Career Corner.